Hey guys, what's up? It's bladelordcal. Welcome to Podcast Prime. It's a podcast with myself and Krashy.
So,
So we're here just to talk about Infinite Crisis. It's gonna be hopefully a fun time. So on today's schedule, let me pull it up really quick. We've got patch notes. We've got Supergirl. We've got some esports stuff with Kings of the Crisis, Road to Pro. Some roster changes, and the Infinite Crisis experience hosted by Twin Galaxies Live. That was interesting. And at the end of the show, we're gonna have some questions from the chat and like closing statements and whatnot. So let's dive right on into it with the patch notes. So I think the biggest, or like the first big change of the patch was the increase in bans. So we went from one ban from each team to 2 bans for a total of 4 bans, in the game. What do you think about that, Krashy?
it's pretty cool. It's something that I was kind of like rooting for a while, and the main reason being is that like we kind of saw like the same compositions coming out every single game. It would just be like, okay, blue team got this type of comp with like say like 3 main characters, and then red team got like the other comp that was kind of out there with like 2 or 3 main characters for that team. So it's kind of nice to not always see like the same 2 people banned every single time,
Right.
and like not the same exact kind of like there was always like a API comp, and then there was always like a Wonder Woman Prime AoE comp, and it just like you saw those come out a little bit too often. And now with some of the like the opening of 2 new bans and then some of the champion changes, we actually see like a lot of different things getting banned now.
Right.
So it's pretty interesting to see like what comes out of that.
Yeah, I think it just increases like the variety of like champions that can be played now, because like it's every single game it was just like, oh, you ban Shazam, you ban like API, you ban, or like you ban Gascat or something. They're like just the 3 bans that you had to work with, and then like, but now like you can actually kind of go for like a target ban, it seems like. So like, let's say someone's really really good at, I don't know, Robin. Just this is like a crazy out there example, but like you can, like they can only play Robin. Like you can actually just ban that away and still have something like, that's globally OP, probably like still a Shazam, that you can still ban out.
It's definitely nice to feel like maybe I want to ban Green Arrow mid from Curse, or
Right.
maybe I want to ban RGLA from Dakinger, or something like that, without feeling like the whole ban and pick phase is already over and like that's the only strategy I get into it. Especially if you're blue side, because like blue side, you get 1 pick, you're gonna give away 2 things.
Right.
So you can't really target ban on blue side with 1 ban when you know they're gonna get something that they want. So it's a little bit nice to have that like freedom to kind of, I don't know, just alter the comps and the specific picks that people can or can't get.
Right. Okay, so before I wanted to talk about the patch notes, I wanted to talk about Turbine and their kind of communication with the community and how it's gotten better over the past couple weeks to past few months. So on Wednesday, that's when the patch shipped, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so on Wednesday they had their patch note stream with Celestrada and Anivan. So where everybody in the community was welcome to come to the Twitch channel, and they would pull questions from the Twitch chat and just ask Anivan like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So I think that was really really nice, especially since Turbine has been getting a lot of flack for not being communicating with the community as much.
Yeah, it definitely. The thing I talked to Duffy a little bit, and the thing I told him that like really gets me about this patch, like on the plus side, is that I felt like a lot of the changes. First of all, we got this patch like really really quickly. You know what I mean? So it felt like it was something that they wanted to do because they knew we were expecting things to be changed. And then when we got this patch, all of the changes, even if they were done, executed perfectly or not, they just were done, and that's good enough for me. You know what I mean? Like, for a while, I think people, or at least I've been saying, like, hey, the towers seem a little too strong. And, like,
Right.
for a while, we've been saying API and Shazam are a little too strong. And, like, although some of those took a little bit longer, and, even still, I'm not exactly sure if the towers are where they need to be, we got them. And we got those changes, and we actually, like, they're actually live now. So I can't really blame Turbine for at least taking, like, a leap of faith and kind of trusting what we want for the game and then actually putting that through. So I'm proud of the fact that they're actually able to communicate with us more openly, take what we say, and then at least try it out, even if it's not what
Right.
they have in mind, because this is their game. I'm sure they see a direction that they want to take the game in, but they also see what we have to say now, and that feels pretty nice.
Yeah, it's really nice just because, having talked to a lot of the people at PAX, I specifically remember talking to Icy Wormy. He's the UI guy, and I
Yeah.
remember giving him feedback, like a lot of feedback on what I like about the UI, what I don't like about the UI. So it's kind of nice. And like I was talking to Tens also about some balance changes or some changes like tweaks to champions that I would like to see. And though I'm not, I'm not this pro player or anything, it's just nice to see like some of the changes that a lot of people have asked for in the game finally.
Yeah,
Um,
and the thing about like champion changes for me too, and I think I've heard GS say this before, is that like we all have our own opinions and our own ideas about how a champion could be fixed, and so like occasionally you'll hear that one person that's like, oh, if they just would listen to what I say, well, it's like yeah, that may be true, and honestly, your solution might be a really good solution to fix a champion or to how to balance a champion, but that's all. It's also not the only one. So anytime we're getting some kind of change, you have to like be grateful for that and then see what we can do to make it the right change or see what we can add to make it the right change. So the fact that we got a Nightmare Batman nerf, I think at the first time around, it was a good idea because Nightmare Batman stuck out like a sore thumb.
right.
Well, I don't know, maybe not even. He was just really effective. But then it just wasn't like we didn't have any communication about the fact that he was getting nerfed at all. There was literally nothing to tell us that. There was nothing to go off of. And now that he got buffed, it was obviously like, whoa, this character we've said is completely useless now. We're not going to use him. Now they're buffing him, and I see him as amazingly viable now.
Oh yeah.
So the communication factor is definitely there. And again, I can't blame them for taking chances and for actually trying things out whenever it's what we've asked for and it's what we've said we would like to see.
It'll also be nice in the future because there's a lot of forum posts from Anu Van Duffy, like about saying like, hey, we're just kind of gonna give updates onto what we want to do, similar to what Riot does in their patch forecasts. I don't know if you
Yeah.
keep up with that, but basically in Riot's patch forecast, they say this is what we think is pretty overpowered. We're going to take a look at this and it'll probably get nerfed in the next patch. And Turbine, or specifically Duffy, I remember, said that he wants to do something very, very similar to that. So the communication is still kind of growing and growing. So if they, like, let's say they put out this patch forecast and Robin gets nerfed, and we just all outcry, Robin doesn't need a nerf, like, then
Most
I'm
likely
sure,
they won't go
yeah,
through with
they
it.
won't go through with it, or they'll take
Yeah.
feedback as to why he doesn't deserve this nerf or something like that. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what the future holds for Turbine and their communication. I think it's just gonna get better and better as we go on.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that this patch was like the opening of the door to communication,
Right.
and it just felt like I don't know. It just felt like they finally got it. You know what I mean? Because it's been a while where we have given feedback and literally they wouldn't do it, or they already had something planned, or you know what I mean. And it's just like what we want as a consumer and as like people who, in some cases, just know what should happen
Right.
is still very important. And so the fact that they're at least taking the time to pay attention to that is worth it. And so I don't know. Some of these changes I think are really good. Some of them not so much, but at least we got them. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Okay. So next topic, let's go on to the turret and drone changes. So if you guys didn't know, turrets got their damage algorithm kind of changed by a lot. But drones, I think, let me pull up the patch notes really quick. Drones deal 25% less damage to champions on every map. So Gotham Heights, Coast City, Gotham Divided. And the turrets Uh, they did a bunch of stuff that I don't want to talk about. If you guys want to read all of it, it's on the Infinite Crisis website. Basically, you can tower dive very, very effectively now. It's a little obnoxious. What are your thoughts?
Um, I like it. The thing about it is that like the turrets in this game were in such a place where you couldn't really tower dive like early at all. Like it just wasn't possible. The amount of counterplay that they could have would be ridiculous, and then you would pretty much guarantee yourself a kill if you're under a turret. And so I like the idea of being able to turret dive. The problem with it for me is that it's just way too easy right now. I
Yep.
mean, anyone can step forward and get that last hit right now, even a marksman, even Green Arrow, anybody. So I don't exactly know how it got that far. I don't know. They went, yeah, exactly like what Napalm just said in chat. They went from one extreme to the other, and so the thing is I'm happy to see it happen as opposed to us just always having these OPS turrets.
Hmm.
But I kind of am just expecting that in the future they'll get changed to be a little bit stronger than where they are. And I don't know if that just means knocking off the damage reduction of the first hit and making the second hit the first hit, or changing the numbers completely, or making it to where as long as turrets are shooting, there is no reset. You know what I mean? In damage, like if you swap from one champion to the next, maybe there's no reset. I don't know how exactly they could do it, but I do think that they kind of over nerfed him a little bit. But I like the direction that it took the game. I like being able to say, hey, let's roam up to mid, and I'm going to come from behind, and we're going to dive them under their turret no matter what, no EMP or anything. With that being said, a turret dive and the addition of an EMP can get literally ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you're getting turret dove, your best option is not to run in a circle, it's to run straight back. It's just, you don't have an option. You need to run.
Yeah, so I've been messing around with turret diving in solo queue, and it's kind of obnoxious how much you can get away with it. I think in the last patch, to turret dive effectively, you kind of needed an EMP. Like you needed at least an
Yeah,
EMP
you
to
just
do
had
it,
to have one.
because you would just take way too much damage before. But now, like you can in the mid game, you can just dive all you want, and turrets will not hurt you. I think I would like to see maybe turret damage turret damage to champions kind of scale with level, or like the average level in the game. Just because and then just buff the damage up.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, we can see where it goes from there. Because it's true, we went from, oh my god, this turret just did half of my health at level 1 because I'm a new player and I stepped into that boundary line that looks really cool, to, oh my god, I took no damage from this thing. And it tickles, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the lower turret damage also kind of hurt the viability of Booster Gold's power suit, just because you don't really need it anymore.
You don't really need it, but if you have it,
I guess if
you're
you
a
have
god.
it, yeah,
You're a god among men. So.
then you can just eat the turret. So
I don't know. It's funny though, because when the patch came out, I wasn't playing the game. I was off doing something else, and then I got home, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna jungle Superman. I want to see how it is," and yada
right.
yada yada. And then I get into a game, and I didn't anticipate that it was gonna be that easy to turret dive. I didn't. I guess I didn't look at the numbers right, or I just didn't have the knowledge that I should have. And I ganked top lane, and we chased the person top lane, and it was an Atomic Wonder Woman, and we were right about to kill her at her turret line, and she jumped over with her Q, and I was like, I'm gonna dive her, and I just, I thought I'll probably pick up the kill, I might die, but we'll get the kill and assist, and I had my E up as Superman, so I push her back, I fly to her, I hit her, I took 5 shots at level 5 and just walked away. And I just stood, I was in the bush at top lane, and I was backing, and I was just like, what did I just do? What just happened? I had no idea. I don't know. But the thing is now here's my question to you, Cal. Would you, if there was no change from this point on, would you rather have the old turrets or the turrets we have now?
That's actually a really difficult question, just because I think I would honestly, if I was chosen, or if I had to do Old turrets versus new turrets. Like, there was no middle ground. I honestly think I would like the old turrets a little bit more, just because there is. I'm always a huge fan of having to make decisions and like weighing risk reward. So I'd rather see people take that risk, tower dive like a really strong turret, and then maybe get a huge reward off of that.
My opinion is the other way around. See, I would rather keep these turrets, and the reason being is that I don't want them to gauge their safety based on knowing how many EMPs I have. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to sit in lane and be like, "Hey, they have one EMP. I know they might stack it up to two. I might get ganked in my lane, but I'm probably not going to get dove until about another 4 or 5 minutes." For me, I want to be able to counter jungle bot jungle and then be like, "Hey, yo, I'm just going to dive them behind their turret," and them have no idea it's coming.
Right.
And whether I have an EMP on me or not, it actually be possible to do. I think if we were to see a tower change, I would like to see them a little bit stronger, but really, I mean, a little bit, not even
Right.
anywhere near where they were before. And if we had to pick one or the other, I would keep them the way they are now. In fact, I think I'm kind of okay with it. I'm just not sure if it makes the game a little bit more snowbally or not. I feel like it might a little bit.
I kind of agree. I do want the turrets right now to be buffed, just so there is a little bit more counterplay to getting dove. I'm always about trying to outplay people, and if I can outplay someone under my turret in like a 1v2 dive, then I think I should, I should be able to do that. But I think an interesting point was brought up in chat where the new turrets promote aggression and faster games. So that's always something that I've wanted from the game. Gotham Divided last patch, I think literally every single solo queue game I played would go to at least the 45-minute mark, and eventually you just get so bored because last patch you kind of got a lot of credits, like especially if you're doing really well, you just got loads of money, and then you're sitting at 6 items at 35 minutes and you're just like, what do I do with this?
Yeah,
because there's nothing I can really buy. Like, maybe I can swap an item out for like a situational one, but other than that, it's just like you didn't really have much choice. And now, because games can be faster, I think it brings Gotham Divided into a place where the more skilled team can actually just wipe you out in 15 minutes and just be like, GG, we're done.
yeah. I think on that same note, though, I feel like the game has slightly gotten a little bit more snowball.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I feel that way is because if a team gets ahead and say they've gotten a really convincing lead early, say they're up 5 kills,
Right.
the person that's going to be diving, and the reason the turrets are not helping the factor of wanting to come back from being behind, is that the team that dove, or the team that is diving and is ahead, is going to continue to do that, and they're going to do it again, and then they're going to do it again. And so it's like, at what point, I feel like there's one pivotal point in every single game that I've played on this patch anyways, and it's around the Raider fight. If you don't have a chance to come back if you are behind around that first Raider, I just feel like the game is already almost over, because they're going to get one Raider, and you may have a small window in between the first Raider and the second Raider to come back. But after that second Raider, the game is over, in my opinion. If the team is ahead, even if the game is even, and they get one Raider, okay, you've got a little bit of time. If they get 2 Raiders, I just feel like the game is over. I feel like you literally are done. You don't have the vision. You don't have the gold that they've been getting. The credit velocity is lower. You can't stay safe under your turrets because they can dive you now. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like after maybe the first or second Raider, in between that small window, your game is over. You're done.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm glad that you can finish a game out and close out the game, but I'm not sure if that's because the team is more skilled or because it's actually just a lot less forgiving this patch than it was before.
I also think that the just the vision of Raider Cam is also kind of a factor. if you get 2 Raider Cams and you're already snowballing, then it's just that's a line that the enemy team can't really cross because they could just get caught out at any time.
And even if you did run away back to your turret, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So and I think the Raider Cam vision has been something that we've been talking about a while, and we're just gonna have to wait and see how that gets changed, because I'm pretty sure at some point in the future that will get its deserving nerf or change or fix or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, I actually brought that question up in the patch note stream to Cardell, and he said that they're working on solutions for Raider Cam.
Yeah.
So it'll just take some time. Um, so let's move on to champion changes. So I think the one of the biggest changes of this patch was the Nightmare Batman buffs.
Yes.
So let's talk about those. So for those who don't know, his passive, the base healing on hit, got increased from 2 to 4, which is a double at level 1. The slow on Silver Battering, his Q, has returned. Bat Swarm's damage got changed from power to attack damage, and it scales with a 0.9 AD ratio. And the energy return on his E Savagery has increased from 4 to 8, and the duration is a flat 5 seconds at all levels from 3, 4, 5, 6. So what are your thoughts on this?
So when they nerfed Nightmare Batman, their reasoning behind it was they wanted to make him more of a auto attack based champion. These notes right here is exactly how they executed it. They still removed or took away a lot of the damage off of his ult. They changed the way his W does damage, which is arguably a buff for him, and the change to his passive and his E is literally insane. Like it is huge.
No, it's
his passive is borderline overpowered to me right now. I want to say he's one of the only junglers that can actually stay in the jungle the whole game and never back if he didn't need to. Like unless you specifically want to go back and fill up whatever health vials you have or pick up a drop, you don't actually have to leave the jungle. And I think over time, some junglers can kind of keep that up and keep going, but over time they slowly will run out of will or they'll run out of health. And he's like the only jungler I think in the game right now that can actually just never leave the field. And that's always kind of been a factor of his passive. As for his E is amazing. It makes you so fast. You get the energy return, you get the damage buff, and I'm not actually sure how relevant like putting points into his W is currently, because the stealth is nothing that you're not reducing the cooldown on your stealth. The stealth isn't good. While you're getting the damage on your Bat Swarm, it may be better just to actually focus on those auto attacks and keep yourself moving with your E. Right. So I don't know. I've experimented with him a lot. I think though with this change, he went from borderline unviable, if that was to be argued, to amazingly viable and a really strong pick now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was playing Nightmare Batman in the jungle yesterday, and I was just like, all right, I do not die in this jungle. Like I can tank.
You don't even take damage.
Yeah,
at
I
all.
can tank literally every camp and still be at 99% HP. And I was
you can finish the health regen camp and still be full health, because whatever damage it did to you, you're healing some of that back, and then you get the regen off of it.
Right.
You can finish that camp and be full health.
Right.
And if you can finish that camp and be full health, you can finish any other camp and be full health. So I don't know. It's pretty insane. I think the only camp technically that would give you a little bit of damage to yourself would be like the speed camp, because you don't get health back off of it on the actual drop.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know if I want to go this far as to say he's arguably one of the best junglers in the game, but if you're talking clear time, then I don't know if that can be contested, because clear time he never has to leave.
Right.
So really, really strong champion in my opinion at the moment.
I think also the changes to Savagery and Silver Battering also help his ganking a little bit.
Definitely. And he needed that though. Like taking the slow away from his Q was just a mistake from the start. Right. And you can't make a champion who's auto attack based if that's what your goal is, and not give them a reason to stick to a champion. So now that I see Savagery as being really, really viable to put points into, and Silver Battering has always been a good damage output, and now a slow again, you run in, slow them, smack them, keep running, and hitting them as much as you can. And then if you have your ultimate, you can almost guarantee a kill. Yeah. And that's always been the way his ultimates work. So,
do you think that the shift in damage from power to attack on Bat Swarm kind of hurt his jungle clearing a little bit?
I think it hurt his jungle clearing if you're expecting to put points in your W. The thing is it doesn't really hurt him that much. I don't know. The thing about it is, like, and I may be crazy, and I don't know. Anybody can feel free to kind of correct me if they think I'm wrong. I feel like his W is less. It's not as good, but I was expecting it to be really, really good because it's changed to attack damage now. So if I and maybe it is later on once you actually land that Bat Swarm into an ultimate, like right there on the spot. I haven't. I've only played him a couple times this patch, and I just think personally his Bat Swarm it's the spell that you tend to ignore. I wouldn't put points in my passive over Bat Swarm. I don't know. I don't think that those are arguably something you'd want to do. I think you would probably want the damage because the sustain off his passive is ridiculous at rank 1 anyways. But I just feel like what Savagery gives you and the damage that you get from battering, which you know you're going to throw in a gank anyways, or in a trade anyways, might outscale what Bat Swarm is able to do.
Okay. I was just bringing that up because yesterday I kind of when I used to jungle Nightmare Batman, you just get W level 1 and then you just literally decimate the small camps because
it just doesn't feel like it does that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like even like I'll put 1 point into it because it's a small stealth, but even I don't know. I put it this way. His W, like what Dackinger just said, his W is good, but you just don't level it now. And the reason being is that going into a gank, if you don't have a lot of points in your Q anyways, his W is an unneeded amount of energy that you're spending.
Right.
I've gone into ganks using my E and my Q only, and the reason being is I want to make sure I can throw a second Q after a little while. Like, I don't give a shit if I drop my Bat Swarm under him for a second because they're going to walk out of it. It's not going to give me a good stealth, so I'm pretty much running into a gank with my E in advance. I hit him, I slow him, and then I try to slow him again if I have a chance. So
yeah. Okay. So we'll move on from that. We're going to go on to Flash. So Flash has been a very controversial champion.
Especially in NA.
Oh, yeah, for a while. So what they've done to Flash this patch, his Q got its power damage ratio decreased from 0.7 to 0.6. And by default, this skill cannot pass through walls. So
big change.
Big change to Flash's kind of running away potential. I'm trying to think of a better term for that, but I can't think of
one. His escapability.
Yes, there we go. His escapability. His W, F equals MA, no longer applies on-hit effects.
Huge change.
Huge change.
Bigger change than the Q.
Damage reduced to whatever. It just got nerfed by 5 at every rank, and the power damage ratio got reduced from 0.2 per hit to 0.175. Also, hyper vibration while active. This is his E. Flash attack changes from a rush to a dash, allowing it to pass through walls. So Flash got a pretty significant nerf this patch. I think everybody can agree with this.
So here's my opinion on Flash, and I feel like there's no one better than me to talk about Flash because you can literally go on my Twitter and probably Control F the word Flash and see how much I complain about this champion. Right. It was a pretty big nerf, and the W change I feel like might have been a little over nerfed, but the change to his Q, oh my god, I was so happy. And there's 2 reasons I was amazingly happy. One, I'm sick of this hero literally just rape training everyone on the field and still getting away. That has always made me so frustrated about Flash. And the thing about it is that, like, you dash in and you literally have to counterplay him in that small window between him dashing and his ulting. And on the event that he has, smart positioning and is a good player on Flash, he's going to get his ult off. His ult still is untouched, so it does amazing damage. And then even if you were to almost kill him, he can still most of the time get away. So I think the EQ change was really, really good because I'm tired of him just walking away after being invulnerable and dealing a lot of damage. I think it was just, come on, let's be real. Flash has been overpowered for a long time. But the other reason I like this change is because lore-wise, it makes sense. He literally hyper-vibrates, or I'm saying hyper-vibrate because that's the name of his E, but he walls to go through a wall. So lore-wise, this was actually really cool to see, and that just comes from my inner comic book nerd. I just think it kind of makes sense that he has a dash. That makes sense. That's cool. He runs fast in a certain direction. But now you have to turn on your vibration and dash to go through the wall.
Right.
And so lore-wise, I think that's a really cool change.
Yeah, I think lore-wise, or just, I don't really keep up with comics, but lore-wise, I think it's kind of cool that you have to have
Yeah.
this skill, but it also kind of hurts him because if he doesn't have this up or doesn't have enough will to use both E and Q, then you can
Sorry,
just corner
bud.
him,
Yep.
and
Sorry,
that's
bud.
actually something I really like because
I like that. I like it a lot.
Flash just would run away or go in, ult, kill your squishy, run out. And
The thing about Flash for me is that I still feel like I see a lot of use in Flash. And while anybody can say that his laning is dead, and I probably agree with you, I don't really see him as a really strong laner. There's a specific comp and a specific reason you take Flash now. And you can dispute it all day, but EU has only pretty much exclusively been jungling him. And I don't see him as anything other than a jungler. I just don't. I can't see him as a mid laner. I can't see him as a top laner. I can't see him as a bot laner at all. So I see him as a jungler that is an amazingly strong niche pick. But with all that being said, I have no idea why they nerfed his W. I just don't. I don't get it. I don't see why they felt the need that his W should get nerfed. I feel like he was strong because of the amount of escape and the amount of seconds and time that would elapse where you couldn't actually do anything to him. And changing his flash attack with hyper vibration almost kind of fixed that. Now, his ult is still really strong, and that's why I'm saying I still think he's a pretty viable pick, but it's just not something you're going to see very often. And to be honest, I'm kind of okay with that. I think we've dealt with Flash enough.
I think the W kind of got over nerfed a little bit.
It definitely was, yeah, definitely.
I think maybe you could have reduced the power damage. Like I see it in either two ways. So you either remove the fact that it applies on hits, or you just nerf the base damage and ratio. Doing both, I think, just kind of makes it.
I mean, but let's be real here. That's a pretty typical turbine nerf for the most part. Instead of changing a small thing about specific skills, they kind of destroy one full thing, or they change the whole kit, or you know what I mean? So, in terms of turbines change to this specific character, I think this is typical turbine. So, overall, in my thoughts about Flash, personally, I'm really happy to see him as a champion that I just don't have to worry about anymore. Mm-hmm. In terms of balance, I feel like he's too nerfed, but I still feel like he might have room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So if we're talking about where I see him specifically, I feel like he's over nerfed, just in a whole. Honestly, because of the amount of damage that he dealt, it made sense that he would be someone that would be really easily killed. Does that make sense? Glass cannon kind of idea. Yes. Well, they did that when they made him not able to constantly dash through walls. I feel like they almost accomplished that. His ult was unchanged, so his ult and his Q damage were unchanged. We know Q damage ratio was slightly nerfed, right. So we know he was still going to do good damage. But then they kind of destroyed his W, and they destroyed his escapability a little bit. Well, not destroyed, but they lessened it. So I feel like in all, he's pretty over nerfed at the moment.
Yeah,
he's not gonna be someone we see come out very often. It's just not gonna happen.
I think that like with these changes that. He is probably just a jungler now. I do agree with that.
Yeah, I just can't see him pulling off a laning phase.
Yeah, there is no real safe lane to put him. And that was kind of the problem with him in Coast City back in the day. Like when Coast City first got released, like where do we put Flash? Because he was OP in Gotham Heights. And then Coast City comes out and it's like, where do we put this OP guy? Maybe he's not OP? Like, is he just... And then people figured out kind of jungle Flash, but you didn't really see it that much, I don't think, in Coast City.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think I am a huge fan of Flash as a character, right. And I've always kind of hated where he was at in the game, but now I feel the same. I kind of hate where he's at because I don't feel like he's going to be a top pick or a top ban, or for that matter, I don't even know if EU is still using him, to be honest, and I don't know. If they are, I would honestly, that would make me feel a little better about him as a jungler. But I don't know. I think all in all, over nerfed.
Okay, so let's move on to API. So API is a champion that everybody also wanted to see nerfed. I think it was Shazam and API were probably the two biggest. So base stats, base AD increased from 57 to 61. Base health reduced from 516 to 450. Health per level reduced from 88 to 80. Her passive, the mark duration, is reduced from 6 seconds to 5 seconds. The range on her W, Bramble Rapture, the snare, range reduced from 4.5 to 3.75. And the Wall of Thorns got a huge change. So damage over time is now applied to targets, only to targets that have the Toxic Growth mark. It no longer silences, which is pretty big. The range got decreased, the fuse time got increased, but the damage over time got buffed. So I think these changes kind of make API a little bit more... She's a little bit more telegraphed. If she kind of just walks up to you, she's not gonna just like snare you kind of for free. You have like a little bit more time to react to her like walking up to you. And the silence being gone, I think, is also really nice, just because the silence, it was kind of annoying not being like, if you got hit by WE, then you can't really do anything. You just stand there, and if you're like a caster, you just, what do you do?
Yeah, you don't do anything. Exactly. Well, for me specifically, I think that the silence just never made sense. Like it was a damage dealing spell, it was a slow, and it was a silence. You know what I mean? Like, and on top of that, it takes up the whole lane. Like, I mean, I just didn't understand the silence. And so looking at how they changed her, there's only two things that really bother me. Well, there's only really one thing that bothers me. I don't really understand why her base health is so low. It's really low. Like, we're gonna get to Robin in a second. I'm gonna go ahead and spoil this for the stream, but Robin has higher base health than she does, and I kind of just, there's a part of me that just doesn't. I don't really agree with that. I don't know, and I don't know if that has to do with just across the board enforcers should have better base health than bruisers should, but to me it kind of just seemed like a really awkward change. Everything else I think is fine. The other thing about API is that if you get into a game, you hardly even notice she's nerfed. She's still really, really good, and that will always be that way as long as you give a champion point and click CC. She has point and click CC. She's good, like hands down. I don't even care. I can look at all these numbers all I want. She's got point and click CC. I know she's probably good.
Yeah, I think the base stats, like her base health going down, is in compensation because she has this huge damage shield that kind of makes up for it. Also, I think it's like to make her a little bit squishier in like the laning phase, just because she's really tanky for like a laner.
She's just hard to trade with,
support. Also, the W being point and click, yes, that basically I think she'll be, unless like they nerf her damage by a lot or like whatever. If they just keep the CC duration, I think she'll be still good.
I guess a part of me would rather see her shield nerf than her base HP nerfed. And that's only early on. It could be literally like the first tick of it or something. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but it is just kind of weird to look at numerically. But other than that, I think API, I think it's fair to say that she came down, like that's obvious.
Right.
And while she's still really effective, and I still think she's almost in the same place she was because nobody else is really above her, it's a nice change, and I'm pretty pleased with it overall.
Okay.
So, I don't know. There's nothing more that I could see them doing to her. If they wanted to nerf her severely, I think then her W point and click CC would have to be changed to like a skill shot or a toss, or I don't know. You know what I mean? But I'm okay with where she is right now. I think she's still amazingly effective and really viable.
I personally would like to just see the root duration on her W go down a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. It is still free and long.
I think it's 2 seconds at max rank, which is I think huge for this game.
That is a pick. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's a death. Someone dies.
Okay, so let's go to Robin. Robin has for a while been considered not very, very good.
Yeah.
So base health increased from 473 to 515. Health gain per level decreased from 88 to 86. So the change to his E was, or dynamic duo, power lifesteal has been removed. Attack lifesteal is increased by 50% when granted only to yourself. When granted only to Robin, the buff becomes more potent. And here's something I don't like about Turbine's patch notes. They do really vague things like this, where it's just potent. how
What is exactly does that mean?
exactly? So
Yeah,
I'd like to see, some more numbers, like maybe 15% more potent, 20% more potent. Like how much more potent is the buff on
more
myself?
potent. Yeah.
Uh, Knockback reduced from 500 to 300 on his ult. So I'm not a Robin player. I've always kind of strayed away from Robin just because he's never really fit in with me. So what are your thoughts?
So let's just go on ahead and say right now that this change did nothing for Robin. It literally it could have. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything. He's not viable by design. I still think that Robin just needs at least one or two of his abilities changed, actually changed, and it actually makes weird. It's a weird concept that he has an ability called Dynamic Duo, but when you buff yourself, the buff is more potent. Like that actually doesn't actually make any sense to me. Also, nerfing his W, I don't really get it. Was that because they felt like maybe it pushed them too far that it wasn't getting the effectiveness that it got? But I don't really see this change being relevant at all. I don't actually know why they even did it. If they need to change Robin, I think they need to change him. By design, he was never intended to be a bruiser. You can't throw some higher stats, some health ratios, change a small buff that by name and by what it does doesn't make sense and expect him to be played. So for me, sorry, Robin's just not. He's not good.
Yeah, his W didn't get nerfed. His ult did, but in the notes they said.
Oh yeah, that is his ult.
Yeah, they've been testing other forms of crowd control, but this is like the best one yet, and it's also to keep people like in his ult passive aura thing that he has.
Yeah.
Also, I'm hearing from the chat that apparently it's 50% on the potency, but in the patch notes it says just lifesteal, and I'm pretty sure it gives other stats, right? I remember it giving other stats, at least.
Can't tell you the last time I actually paid attention to what Robin does. To be honest, the last time I played Robin, the only thing I could think about doing to make him viable was actually maxing his passive so I could get in or get Will back. So, I don't know. I just think as a champion he needs a little bit more work than this.
With the increased lifesteal on his E applied only applied to himself, do you think he's a better jungler right now?
I mean, he's better by himself. That definitely is for sure. Think of I don't know. I guess think of Nunu. Like you can buff yourself or you can buff somebody else. That makes sense. But this guy, I feel like by design he was still meant to be a support. He still has that support E feel on his E,
right.
And now it only works for ADs, and it's more potent on himself when it's called Dynamic Duo. I just have to say, by design, this champion just is irrelevant. I feel bad that they actually designed him into the game as a hero that I really enjoy, lore-wise, as a character I really admire, and I can't enjoy him. I just don't enjoy him. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's a good solo laner. I don't think he's a good jungler. I don't think he has any room right now.
Mm-hmm. I kind of want to try Jungle Robin just because I think he'd be okay at ganking with Q and W.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the worst thing in the world. I mean, he has a built-in slow. He's got a knockback or 2 knockbacks. It's really not the worst thing in the world. I just think that I don't know. It just doesn't really get pulled off. You know what I mean? It just doesn't do it.
Right.
For me, anyways.
Okay, so Shazam. Oh boy, Shazam. So,
goody.
According to Turbine's patch notes, Shazam is currently playing more like an assassin than a bruiser. So true. So true.
It's true.
We recognize this and are giving him a hit, blah, 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 blah. Speed of Mercury Q, power damage ratio reduced from 50% to 35%. Mystic defense, shield increased from 40, 70, whatever, to whatever. Shazam, ult, ratio decreased from 40% at minimum range to 35%. Ratio decreased from 80% at max range to 70. Range decreased from 900 to 800. So
Shazam, I don't exactly know. The thing about Shazam is that he was introduced or brought into the game as an enforcer.
Yep.
And I guess that was because they thought I don't exactly know. I'm going to assume that it was because they expected you to build him tanky with health, and then he would deal damage because of his passive.
Exactly.
But it just so happens that he does a lot of damage when you build him damage.
That's
and
true.
that hasn't really changed for me. He's still gonna play the same way unless you really like flip his passive. You know what I mean? Like you
Hmm.
need to make it more valuable to build health on Shazam,
Hmm.
or even or so I don't know. Like if you want him to be a bruiser, you gotta balance that out a little bit. But with that being said, I don't necessarily think they need to change the play style of Shazam. I'm fine with where he is. I definitely think he was amazingly too strong last patch, and this brings him down in line where you have to make a decision when you're drafting or when you're playing a game as if you want to take the Shazam or you want to take somebody else like a Superman now or
Hmm.
like Nightmare Batman. So with this change, he's definitely still viable. I think he took a good power hit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he was too much. Everybody can agree that he insta-gibbed people, and that's just not where Shazam needs to be.
Hmm.
But he's not. He hasn't fallen out of viability because he's come down to where some of other champions came up, and now they're at this nice little mid ground of where I think they should be. So I think Shazam's playstyle hasn't changed. I don't think he's a bruiser like the way by his playstyle, and I don't think he's unviable. So I'm pretty pleased with where Shazam is at.
I think the true kind of like where he needs to get reworked a little bit is his passive, just because it does reward like, hey, I'm gonna build like 500 power damage. Okay,
Yeah.
here's like 500 free health. Oh, thanks. Like now I'm like slightly I'm like tanky for an assassin, and I
Wouldn't
can.
it make sense for like every one health you get half a power damage or like 0.75 of a power damage? You know what I mean? Like I think if you're gonna say, hey, for every power damage, like if you're gonna have a passive like that and classify him as a bruiser, it needs to be swayed in the health direction.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that's only if that's how they want him to be played. If they like what he does now, maybe they should unclassify him as a bruiser. Maybe they should classify him as a blaster. I don't know. That's up to them.
I think they want to shift him more into the bruiser playstyle. I don't think these are the first Shazam nerfs that we're gonna see. I think we're gonna still see some tuning in future patches, but for right now, I think he's still incredibly viable.
Again, if this is the way they want him to play, I don't see a reason why he should get a change. I think he's fine the way he is. If this is how they want him to be, if they want him to be more like at GL, where you're kind of benefiting from building health specifically, and you can do some power damage, then I think they should change his passive. But if this is where they want, if this is what they want him to do, and he does it well, and we kind of appreciate and use him for that, then I see no reason to give him a change. But
Mhm.
that's kind of on Turbine's end in correlation with what the majority of the community thinks about Shazam and wants him to do.
Okay.
So
I've been jungling him a little bit just to see the impact of the nerfs, and he still seems fine. I
yeah,
think
he's very effective in my opinion.
I think he still
So
brings that like free initiation. He can dive all he wants now, like thanks to this patch in the turrets, and like
yeah,
he still scales pretty well. It's just you might have to build a little bit more tanky items on him, and you just can't rely on like just insta giving someone. All right, next champion, Superman.
oh
Oh,
Superman.
Superman. Alright, so Man of Steel cooldown changed from 25 seconds to 25, 23, 21, 19. Kryptonian Mike Q will cost reduced from 20, 30, 40, 50 to 20, 25, 30, 35. Animation timings have been adjusted to deliver damage and release to move
Quality
faster.
of
So just
life.
QOL changes. Frost Breath cooldown changed from 12 seconds to 12, 11, 10, 9. Animation timings, blah 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 blah. Heat Vision cooldown changed from 15 seconds to 13 seconds. Animation times, blah 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 blah. Mark and second activation window has been increased from 2 seconds to 2.5. Speeding Bullet ultimate damage increased from 150, 250, 350, 450 to 175, 275, 375, 475. AoE damage increased from 60, 85, 110, 135 to 80, 140, 200, 240. Primary target damage attack ratio increased from 0.6 to 0.7. AoE damage ratio increased from 0.4 to 0.5.
All right, so let me grab this one really quick.
All right.
He's a god. They buffed everything.
Yep.
There's 5 parts that go into a champion's kit, and every single thing got buffed. That includes damage. It includes will. It includes cooldowns. It includes AoE damage. It includes time on marks. It literally every single thing about this champion is buffed. He's amazing. I love him. He pre nerf was my second most played champion.
Hmm.
I like this change. I like seeing Superman as a strong character. It makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, I think these changes kind of bring him. He's like a really, really good top laner now.
Yeah,
Really,
ridiculous top
really
laner.
good.
And you get to trade damage amazingly now that your shield actually comes back if you're putting points into it.
Right.
So I think I don't know. He's in a really strong spot, and he can jungle effectively. He's got an amazing ultimate that actually, if is interrupted, like say by one or two people or whatever, can deal almost up to 100 or over 100 more damage at max rank than it was before. He's got more time, a slight bit more time to react with his, with his E.
Right.
His frost breath, if you want it to come down and cool down, you actually have that option. His Q seems more responsive, does more damage. You don't run out of will as fast. I mean, literally everything about this champion is better.
Mm-hmm. I think that the biggest change of this was the AoE damage on his ult. It's huge. It got increased by a lot. So at rank
105 at max rank.
Yeah, 105 plus the 0.1 for the AoE. So that's huge. I think
that's a lot of damage.
Like,
it is a ton of damage. It's no longer a gap closer. Right. It's a gap closer that explodes, literally. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does a ton of damage. With that being said, overpowered.
I think Superman might take. He might see an increase in ban rate in competitive.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%.
Just because he's so good now. Like you said, literally everything about this champion, like passive QWER, got buffed. And it's just... I don't know. I don't think he needed too much help, but I don't think he needed this much help either.
I agree, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed. I want to see how this how this goes. You know what I mean? I do think that we're dancing on the line of overpowered for this champion, but at the same time, he was underwhelming for so long. It's I almost don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, I played this character as jungle when I was playing with Vex, and we kind of never really had the opportunity to actually use him. It was back in the patch when Doomsday was just really ridiculous. And so if I got Doomsday, I would play him, but my next pick was always like either Nightmare Batman or Superman. So very often, or very few times, you would actually see me play Superman, but I played him all the time, and he was so strong. He did a lot of damage. I didn't have to worry about will. And when they changed him, it was like everything got nerfed. It was like this, but opposite. It was like I couldn't stay in jungle because I ran out of mana. I couldn't do damage because I didn't have any damage to do. So now this character went from like, I don't know, bottom tier to top tier in a month or so, in 1 month's change. So I'm excited for Superman. I know he doesn't care, but I'm excited for him to see the kind of attention that he's going to get as a champion. Like, at very least, we're going to see a new character being played more often, and I mean a character being banned, picked, whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if I can complain about OP yet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's a lot of fun. He's someone that I've kind of been wanting to play a little bit more.
Yeah.
Last patch, and even like ever since he got buffed this patch, I'm like, this dude is so fun. And that's really all I kind of care about. Like, how fun is this champion? He feels like he actually like hurts a lot, especially once you get that modded size sim with the 150% AD.
Not to mention that your Q is it's fast. Yeah. It's so fast. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's always had good range on it, so if you needed to reach for it, you could. But now it's like you can pump out that Q damage, and I don't know, he just feels like a new champion. He does. And I don't know, that's cool.
I'm looking forward to playing him in top lane a lot. I haven't tried him out jungle yet, but it's going to be... I want to try that out.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's good.
He's a very fun champion. So next we're going to move on to the artifact and amplifier balance. So Turbine has removed refundable items from Gotham Divided.
Yes.
what are your thoughts on this?
So at first, I mean that was like the only thing about this entire patch that I was really just kind of disappointed about. And the reason I was disappointed about it is because that's one thing about the MOBA genre that just hasn't been done. Really, actually, and truly, has not been done. That, to my knowledge, anyways. I mean, there might be some MOBA out there that has something similar to this, or items close enough to sell back rate where it basically does the same thing. But specifically, an item meant to be sold and to keep your character moving, and it just felt smooth and it felt nice. And the thing about it was that it was very clear that in between specific item purchases you would be building these items. I got into a game and I was like, whoa, like I actually have to save up my credits.
Right.
And I may be ahead, I may be 2 kills ahead or a kill ahead of someone, but I'm actually not stronger than them because I haven't spent the money that I am holding on to purchase something. So there was two things that happened in my head. I was like, whoa, well, this means that some of the items need to be changed. And I still am not sure if I feel that way or not. Like, there are a lot of AD items that are above 1,000 credits starting. A lot. And above 1,250 starting if you want to start with the atomic axes. So those items actually cannot be built early on. And if you're looking at, they said they want to increase the viability of those early game items. Some of them just aren't there for me. Like, for instance, we saw Soul Taker's Katana take a big hit, and it's like that's just not one of the items I'm gonna build in replacing my second purchase of Deathstroke's Claymore. You know what I mean? Like, I second buy a Deathstroke's Claymore, I'm not filling that spot with a Soul Taker's Katana. I mean it. I'm not gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. I'm also not gonna fill that slot with the Sword of Beowulf as a counter build item. I'm not gonna fill it with a V9. I'm not gonna fill it with a Hunter's Crossbow. I'm not gonna fill it with a Hunter's Time Pack or whatever that's called. So what do? I actually just wait now. That's fine to me, but I kind of feel like this change wasn't... I don't know. I'm okay with it because it really doesn't change that much other than the fact that there's actually a little bit more time for the person who is behind numerically to kind of make their rise again. I guess they have a window between where I'm building an item to get a kill on me or something like that, where they're on the same level as me still. But it feels weird because there are certain items that I specifically bought those to build up something else. So all in all, it doesn't really make a huge difference, but it feels weird, if I can say that at least. It feels a little weird. I would have much rather have just seen them nerfed, like really hard.
Yeah.
Like, don't give me an option to only build early game items. Give me an option to build early game items or get almost negligible amounts of stats. Like, make the Promethean Mace 4 tiers for 1,500, but make it like 25 AD. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where I'm choosing to either buy a real item or buy an item that barely does anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which, honestly, that's almost the same as not buying an item that does anything at all. So, I don't know. I still feel like it's a little awkward.
I found myself missing refundables, like, in Gotham Divided, because like you said, I'll just... Like, when I was jungling Shazam, and I'm like, alright, I got my 2 faces, I got my Marauder Ring, and I have, like, 800 credits. Oh, I can't buy refundables anymore.
Nope.
And get a little bit of power. And I'm like, oh, well, this is awkward. Like, what do I do with this? And it's like, I wanted something to help me, not waste any credits, and that's what refundables were for. Like,
it's exactly what they accomplished, and they did it well.
Yeah, I think this patch, like with refundables gone, it kind of alleviates some of the snowballing that can happen in the game. Just because, like, let's say you get you just keep diving top lane or something over and over and over, and you just build, like, you just get the refundables. Like, you're still at like a huge power spike over your opponent. Like, because your opponent won't really have much, and you'll have, like, an item and a refundable, and then you can sell that and get a bigger item, and then you can buy, like, another refundable, too, if you have money left over, and then it's just,
it keeps the person who's ahead still going.
Right.
And so I see how it actually, in terms of balance, it might have been a good change, but I don't know, it still just feels like there's a void there, you know? Maybe it's just because we're not used to it yet. Honestly, I still think never put them back in, but it does feel a little weird, right? I mean... Like I said, at very least, it feels a little weird. what do you think? Because this was my first thought was like, well, since they're not doing that, what if they turned some of the items that are in the game into early game items? Like, what if they took Deathstrokes and added a third tier on it for cheaper and made it basically a weaker version of where tier one is at? Is that unreasonable to ask, or is that just like, hey, this is a later game item, you need to kind of deal with either saving for it or buying something else? You know what I mean?
Um, I just think that to have early game items, you have to have items that with stats that people would kind of want. So like if you take a look at like the nil items or whatever, like these are the like 100% early game
Yeah,
items.
no,
Like
no shadow of a doubt.
you have health, which everybody in the game can use. You have like either power or damage or whatever, and like they just have stats that are like perfect, but like they just don't scale well. So like
Yeah.
if you want to turn some of these late game items and give them like more early game, it's like when like what would I want from Deathstrokes in the early game? A little bit of attack damage and
Just
a little
maybe
bit
just
of
a little
attack
bit of
speed.
AD. Yeah, I mean, as opposed to not getting anything and waiting. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there were more items that fit the category of late game items than there were early. And if they expect me to build items like Soul Taker's Katana, then they need to buff it because that item sucks. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree.
it's a bad item. I don't know if the power tree technically has this problem, but there are some really key items in the power tree. Like for example, you don't really want to wait too long to get your Star Heart.
Mhm.
And if you're waiting too long, then I don't know. It's just like it just feels like the items are in a little bit of an odd spot because the refundables just went away. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't know. It's not that bad. Like I'm okay with it. I just feel like some of the items are. It's kind of weird.
Right.
I think overall I'm fine with it. It just felt weird. It's gonna feel weird for a little while until I get used to saving up money. Like I was walking around the other day in a game and I had 1487 and I was just like ah like I was just
Right.
mad. I specifically remember being like upset. I don't know.
Yeah, I've found myself like just waiting either like at a turret, like I'll just stand AFK at a turret and just like wait for my credits just to buy my item.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I don't know. I want to see how the refundables being gone from Gotham Divided plays out. I think it's an okay change. It's I kind of miss them, but I'm willing to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, agreed. I think I think it's okay. I just think there might need to be item changes if that's the full route they decide to go.
All right. So next big change, Rage Al Ghul's got nerfed very significantly.
Yep.
Thank God. So
Yeah.
basically, what they changed from its revive is it's now a static amount of health that you get as a shield and a set amount of armor and power armor. Um, I don't. I really like this change. I really, really like this change because it brings. Because last patch it was just like you build this item on tanks and you mod it and you become unkillable.
Yep.
Like if they somehow kill you, then they have to kill you
They
again.
kill you again. Exactly.
So I like this change a ton because it nerfs it for the tanky champions, but it also brings it back into viability
For the
unmodded
not so tanky, yeah.
for your green arrows, for your jokers, for your like really squishy people.
You know specifically why I like this change? I like it because it single handedly made other mods more viable.
Hmm.
Like undeniably, like I now have the option if I want a stronger Ra's al Ghul's, which I still think is very viable to mod this. I don't know if I will. I specifically, I haven't messed around with Ra's at all this patch or Rage, but I'm happy with the fact that I can now actually look at third mod slots as a viable option. You know what I mean? Like it was meta to mod Rage Al Ghul's robe,
Hmm.
and now it's an option. That's perfect.
Yep.
That's what these things are meant to be. They're meant to be options,
Yep.
and play styles and decision making. And so I'm pleased with that. I also won't feel bad about buying the item if I don't have it modded. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'm happy.
Yeah,
I don't.
I
I don't.
play a lot of squishies, so like before they changed Rage to be like, you know, your health and stuff, I would still buy it on marksman and blasters, because I thought just, you know, the revive was so good. And when they changed it to be more beneficial for tanks, I'm just like, I don't want to buy this unmodded on a marksman. I don't want to.
There's no point. Yeah, there's no point. You're not building health. Numerically, you're wasting your money by building that on someone who's not building health. If before, it just made no sense. It was a tank item,
right. And now it brings it back up into viability. But do you think that let's say you're still playing like a tank and you still want to do the rage mod, do you think it's less viable on, like, absolutely, like 100% you should not take the rage mod on tanks anymore, just because you have that set amount of health, which is, let's see, you get 2200 health with 60 power or 60 attack armor and 50 power armor at level 19?
I don't know. I could see a reason why you would want to mod it if they're just like wasn't another mod that you were really kind of looking forward to. Me specifically, I'm not going to say what. I mean, you could probably figure out pretty easily. I've replaced that mod on a few pages easily, without even a question in my, like, a shadow of a doubt in my mind. But for other pages, I still have it on there. So I think the key thing about the raise change is the fact that it's preference, and that I can't ask for more. You know. Right. There was a couple of people who, you know, argued with whether or not the rage mod and the rage before was broken, and I feel like the majority of the time that argument was just kind of trumped. Like, it was just kind of broken. So the fact that we got a change to it and it's different, I'm pleased with, at very least. So
okay, so let's move on to Abensur's. So Abensur's got a pretty big change. So it's not a will collector anymore. It's a will harvest.
Yes.
So this just means that instead of having to be around someone who is collecting coins, you just gain will passively. So I like that a lot for support players.
I like this a lot. The thing about the Abensur's is that overall it still has less will than it used to before, when they nerfed it and then made it a collector item. But not only does it have more will than you used to before, or it has less will than it used to before, you had the chance of losing your will.
Right.
And so it's like, wait a minute, you nerfed my item, you nerfed it again by making it something that I can lose, and now it doesn't even do any damage. Like, what the hell? Like, what am I supposed to do with Abensur's? Mm-hmm. And now I feel like this change kind of fixed that. Like, right. It's not a damage item, so don't expect it to be. But it's a very good utility item. It gives you the will that you need. You're not going to lose it. You have a good potential mod for it if you want to use the slot, and it's something that's going to stay that way. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I think controllers who utilize will should be looking at that item. So.
Yeah, I also think that the 10% CDR that you get when it's maxed, like the will harvest is maxed, is really nice as well.
Yeah, the CDR on that item is amazing. You're getting a ton of CDR by building this item. So.
And you also get an extra 10 just by getting it to tier 3, which is 20, which is half of your cap, which is pretty big from one item.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial.
So I think this is going to help a lot of the controllers out. Like Poison Ivy will be pretty okay, I think, with these changes. I've been seeing a little bit more Harley, but I think it's more AD Harley. I do want to try Abensur's with Deadshot on Harley. I'm not really a Harley player.
Yeah, I don't put any hours on Harley, really.
Yeah. All right, I think there's one thing that we forgot to cover, and it's the credit changes.
What, credit velocity?
Yeah, the changes to credit velocity. So, let's see, where did I put this? Okay. So, I think, if I remember correctly, the passive credits that you get like every second went down to 1 per second. Jungle Camp credits and EXP got toned down a little bit, and there's something else. Do you remember it off the top of your head, or is it?
I don't. I'm reading over it right now really quickly.
Okay. But
I mean, just overall, the amount of credits you get, it's spanned out a lot longer. Right. So, as a small summary, basically.
Basically, they say this is taken directly from the patch notes. We realized that having less credits is and items is actually less fun, but we also realized having 20k credits in your bank account in 40 minutes with the full build is also not fun. And that's so true, because I've been in that situation numerous times where I'm just like, I don't know what to do with all of my money. Like, can I just give this to my team? Like, just take it? But hopefully it's... I've noticed that games don't really go out to 6 items anymore. So
most of the time, yeah.
I'm perfectly okay with this. I like playing games where, you know, if it's really even, it can be a 50-60 minute game. Like, I'm perfectly okay with that. I was playing a solo queue against Duffy, Fatal, and someone else, Krashy, and it was just like, it was so even, and like, I was having fun, and it went to 60 minutes and I was still having fun because it was just so even. And I love close games like that. Like, I just don't like it when it draws out to 60 minutes and it's just like, this is even, but it's like so dumb. So hopefully this credit velocity change will help.
Yeah, the only real thing I have to say about it is that I've been liking the way the games have been going so far. I just need a little bit more time to see, you know, what other people think and how I see how it affects the game, really. But overall, it doesn't really seem to affect the game negatively or anything like that. So I'm okay with it. I don't want to say I'm pleased with it because I don't, you know, I haven't seen anything specifically that makes the game better this way. Or I guess to me, it just doesn't really make a huge difference. But I definitely like the way the games are going now. It doesn't seem like they used to be, and that's kind of nice. So I think overall it's good. It's good for me. I like it. But I just need I want to give myself a little bit more time to, I guess, make my opinion about it.
Okay, so we got 2 last things on this patch. So first thing will be the power penetration augments giving more power pen than intended. So
yeah,
I guess that's why last patch a lot of people still, or like Sinestro would just still, I think he still 100 zeros you, but last patch it was just like, did anyone even know that this bug existed? Because I personally didn't.
I know at least a few people knew about it. Me and Mishkit specifically had talked about it before it was changed, and I don't know. Basically, if you had pen on your pages, you had a lot of power pen. Like, woo. So I don't know. The result of this change, though, is a power nerf across the board. So while you don't really see it as much, I guess, like, specifically it's not saying, hey, we're nerfing pen across the board for power champions. It is a power nerf across the board. So I don't think it makes a huge difference, to be honest, but you definitely are going to see a lot less damage going through against some of that power armor. So.
I do think some, like, of the burstier power damage champions are still fine, even though this change is kind of a significant nerf. Like, I think Green Lantern and Sinestro are most likely still fine. But other power damage champions, or like power damage bruisers that might have taken power pen as an amp, might be affected a little bit. So maybe Shazam was doing a ton of damage because he had like these power damage or flat pen augments. Like, I took flat pen on my Shazam page, so I don't know if it was that or like if it was just him being OP. Like, it's just we're going to see. I just want to see how everything plays out with power damage regarding this change. I still think a lot of the people will be okay, though. But
yeah, I don't really think it's going to change a whole lot. I mean, I just think, if anything, we've been kind of complaining about the effectiveness of power armor items, and maybe we kind of know why. I don't know. So I can't say that it's a good change because it was a bug. It's a fix. It's good.
Right.
Yay.
Okay. So the last change we have to talk about is the new costumes that got introduced in this patch. So we just got 3. The summer bundle. It's the Lifeguard Aquaman, which is my personal favorite. We've got
Yeah, that's
the
the best.
yeah, we've got the Catwoman, who uses a towel as a whip now, which is
Pretty cool.
that's
Pretty
I
cool.
think it's really funny. And then we got Joker in a hat and like swim trunks. So
Yeah,
I'm
Joker's
kind of
it's okay.
underwhelmed by the Joker one, but
Yeah,
the
it's okay. I mean, it looks real vacation-y to
mhm.
me, but I think the other ones really capture summer and do a cool aspect of like what the characters do. Like they capture the whip and they capture the trident. So I think those skins are cool.
I really like the splash art for Lifeguard Aquaman because it's literally like a scene from the Baywatch opening. He's just like running on the beach with his like lifeguard stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like 10 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So, all right. So let's see. Now we're going to move on to Supergirl.
Hype,
Hype,
hype.
hype. Let's get some hype in the chat for Supergirl. So if you guys haven't seen her already, she's an attack damage bruiser. Her Q is an auto reset with an AoE cone of damage behind it. Her W is a skill shot dash that stops at the first enemy champ / jungle drone and knocks it down. Her E is a move speed and attack armor steroid, but her next 4 auto attacks reduce the cooldown of her Q and her W. And her ultimate is basically a doomsday dash, but you always get the knockdown. And if you charge into enemy champions while you're dashing, you knock them up. So also her passive is each basic attack she does generates a stack that gives her attack speed, and once she reaches 4 basic attacks, or once she reaches 4 stacks, her Q and her auto attacks gain extra true damage on them. So I'm hype. I want to see how much damage she'll do.
I think she looks really cool. The general like complaint I've seen about her is that she just looks really basic, but that's good to me. Like it's always good to have a champion that's really basic and is really straightforward. You know what I mean? Like she kind of fits her character well for me. Like she gets frustrated and she's angry and she wants to go out there and hit things basically. And I feel like they captured that.
Mm-hmm.
I also like how her passive makes her like I don't know like glow with the sun radiation or whatever. And so lore wise, I think they did a good job on her. I'm excited to see whether she'll be good in jungle, good in top lane, kind of something like that.
I'm really curious to see how she'll do in top lane, just because
Yeah.
it seems like she has a bunch of trading potential. I also want to try out modded Sim on her, like kind of what you do with Superman right now. You go like Coda into Sim, and I just want to see how much damage she can do. I'm always just a huge fan of building bruisers full damage. That's literally been my playstyle since freaking Coast City closed beta. Like, I think I was feared for my full damage Wonder Woman back in the day. Back when
Yeah,
Wonder
like
Woman was AD.
I don't know. I definitely think she'll be a better top laner. It just seems like that's what her kit is built to do.
Mhm.
But if she's got a good jungle clear, she might double. She might double as something that could go as jungle and be a viable pick for that as well. So I'm excited to see specifically what her ratios are like whenever we can get a hold of that.
Yeah. Also, I think her E would be really good for jungle and top lane as well, just because
Yeah.
you can use that steroid and just totally what's it called? Just like out trade people. Like depending on the numbers, but like if you're against another AD, like you reduce their damage and you can like just fight with your own true damage, and it's like just it seems really good. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see how she plays specifically when she comes out. She just seems pretty cool and fun, and I don't know. That's exciting.
also, let's discuss her stolen power. So her stolen
Oh
power is
yeah,
invulnerability.
that
Uh,
thing.
but when it's on cooldown, it gives you extra attack damage. So it's basically Superman's super strength, but invulnerability. So I don't think it's going to be that great, just because I think Doomsday's invulnerability is just really, really good, and it's the only invulnerability you should take if you have the choice. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, you're putting something offensive and like a passive where on a defensive spell. So that sort of an idea works better on super strength,
Hmm.
because you pick up something, you throw it, you have better AD. But you're not going to be just spam using your invulnerability. So I don't know. I'm not too excited or too thrilled about that power.
Okay. Well, she's coming out next week, I believe, on July 2nd. For those of you watching like a VOD or something. So I'm gonna try her out. I'm gonna hope that she's really really good.
Yep.
Um, she looks really fun, and you know what I wish that Turbine would do more of. Like speaking of like new champion releases, I really like the behind the voice video features that they do,
Yeah, those are cool.
but they haven't done one in a while. So I'm hoping maybe we'll get one for Supergirl. I know there was one for Atrocitus, but before Atrocitus we didn't really get one. And like I want to say when like Catwoman came out, that's when they started doing them like frequently. It was like Catwoman and Robin and Atomic Green Lantern, and it's like they have one for every champion. I wish that they would do more, just because like some of the voice actors that they get, like I really like Troy Baker for Superman. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see like how they're in the studio and stuff. And that's just a different part of like a different process of how the game pulls together. And it's like overall, those are actors doing their job as voice actors for these
Right,
characters. So I don't know. It's exciting to see for me. Like I just personally appreciate it on like a different level,
right.
like a different angle in this game. So
Okay, so let's move on to esports. This is gonna be
esports, I see esports.
yes. So Vex is not Vex anymore. They are separated from the organization. Um,
Yeah, that's I just want to like every time I hear that said, I want to say the word again. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I mean, I play into that too. So
Hmm.
I'm not saying that it was expected, but I just mean like, oh, it happened again.
Right.
Like, it's the Vex curse,
Hmm.
the
It's
curse of Vex.
so yeah. I think their IC roster is still. I think someone left. I don't really. Azure Fire left. If
Yeah, Azure Fire is no longer on the team. From my
so,
understanding, I don't know if more have left or not.
yeah.
But I know for sure Azure Fire is not
Yeah.
on Vex anymore.
So I
Or
don't know if
current.
they'll try and pick up a new mid laner, or if they'll try and like continue, just like pick someone up and then be, you know, maybe another team. But they're not Vex anymore. So
Yep, yep, that is confirmed.
right. All right, so this next one is going to be a little bit kind of obvious to the people who keep up with the IC esports scene, no matter how small it is. Nine, formerly of Complexity, KGB, etc., has left Dream State. He's
Yes.
a free agent. So I think a lot of people just kind of, say whatever. Dream State has roster changes literally probably every day. So do you think Nine can find another team?
Yeah, Nine has the skill, the ability. I've played with him. I've been on a roster with him, even though we didn't play together. But yeah, Nine. I know Nine still wants to compete. He's had that mentality since the whole Cole thing went down. So yeah, he's gonna continue playing, from my understanding.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Like meeting him at PAX, he was a really chill guy. So I wished for nothing but the best for him. Finally, or for this third point, we have a new team on the horizon, featuring this guy to my left on the screen, Krashy.
Yeah.
What is this Team Legion?
Yeah, so it was kind of weird talking about the last two things and then coming to this one, but whatever. So yeah, back whenever I competed on console, I played for a team, and this is pre League of Legends Legion. I played for a team that I started myself with 3 other members called Team Legion, and Legion was a competitive Gears of War console team. And I don't know, we never went to any lands under that name, and we actually didn't carry that name for too long. But I've always had the logo and the name that I've liked.
Right.
So whenever I started talking to people on this game, and I knew wanted to continue playing, I just decided to utilize that and bring that to life.
Okay. So do you have like a roster, or are you
Currently, the roster is Azure Fire as top lane and JBJ in mid with me jungle. Bot lane is to be announced, to be decided. Looking at some players, so yeah,
should pick up that
it's nothing
nine.
set. He's trying out. That's like I said, I had to. It was weird to talk about 9, but
Right.
and then go to this. But yeah, he's trying out. We're making like our debut as a roster on Sunday, but that doesn't mean that's going to be our official roster. We've only done 2 scrims so far, but we know it's like it's a process. We're still starting and improving and getting synergy and all the things
Right.
that have to be done.
Are you guys competing in tomorrow's Go for Icy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's we're gonna be making our, like I said, our debut there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's the set roster. It's just we're gonna be taking a shot at it.
Right.
Might as well get started.
Okay. So let's move on to Kings of the Crisis. So our Brawl are the current Kings of the Gotham Divided Crisis.
Yep.
Because apparently the format's a little bit weird. I think it changes maps every week
It does.
now. So next week's Gotham Heights, and then the week after Coast City. I'm not 100% sure on this, but Brawl are the current Kings of the Crisis for Gotham Divided. So I want to kind of talk about the matches, the final matches. It was Brawl 2-0 Denial. But in Game 1, I want to specifically bring up Denial's level 1. Because Brawl was invading in the bot where the Raider Leviathan spawns. But then they, like, Denial's support, whose name I'm forgetting right now.
Picasso,
I think.
Yep.
He does the absolute worst possible wall with Mecha Soups. And it just costs Denial, like, 2 kills. Which is absolutely huge in a level 1 engagement because of how assists work. So Brawl starts off 2 kills up, 5 assists up, and it's just like what do you do to come back after that? Because I'm pretty sure Cripsy got the first kill and then Genre got the second. So the 2 carries, or like the two main carries of Brawl, just start off like ahead. Like, what do you do?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's really not that big of a like a. I don't know. It's not like the game is just over and you need to, start again or something. But it is definitely something that's like, okay, we need to get solid from here, or we're gonna let them snowball. So, really, the only thing you can do after like a level 1 engage is just like forget that it happened. Like, unless it literally was just the end all be all. But you kind of just have to like look at the scenario, see what happened, and then try to adjust. Or I don't know how to say more than that.
Also, I think there's some gardening going on or something.
Oh, do you hear that? Yeah, it's they decided to mow the grass at the 3:30 mark. That's really good.
Maestro in chat says, I can explain, we're supposed to back off, but we weren't on the same page, and then Mecha Soups walled me off. So it seems like there was just some miscommunication, but Denial is a relatively new roster, so I'm sure that these issues will get resolved. But I'm pretty sure Game 2 was a lot closer between Brawl and Denial, at least in the early game. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, there was one part that stuck out to me in the whole like Denial versus Brawl like set, and I don't remember if it was Game 1 or Game 2. I want to say it was probably Game 2. There was a part where I don't remember exactly how it went down. I just remember seeing like Brawl getting chased out of the enemy's bottom jungle, and it really looked like Denial was going to turn the game around there. And So in terms of like experience from Denial to Brawl, I was really excited to see them be able to turn a scenario around like that. But post that specific engagement, it didn't really seem like much was going in their favor. Jeez, this is getting ridiculous. I'm about to go yell at him.
It's all good. So basically, all right. So I also want to kind of highlight the top lane picks from Ease in that series. So I'm pretty sure game one he picked Nightmare Batman, and he was kind of just a god, and it was it was great to see Nightmare Batman back because I played him when he was nerfed in the top lane. I thought, this guy's a decent top laner. He can like duel people, but like with the buffs to him, like I think he's still a really good top lane. So I just want to know like what you think of Nightmare Bat tops, and just like how well, it's very, very vile. Okay, game 2 was Nightmare Batman, apparently. So game 2 was what really impressed me. Because he just controlled literally top lane from just with Nightmare Batman. Krashy?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think Nightmare Batman is just like I said, he's just in a good place. So I don't really see a reason why he couldn't go top and be effective there as he could jungle. His ganks definitely aren't as good as they were way back. So I see him as a viable top lane, just like I see Superman as a viable jungler. So while I think Superman is probably a better top lane and Nightmare Batman is probably a better jungler, I could see a reason why either one would go in either direction.
Okay. All right. So I also want to talk about the kind of unfortunate situation that happened on Wednesday when Kings of the Crisis was going on, because it was a patch day. So do you think, because like I feel that playing on patch days are a little bit unfair to teams, just because stuff gets changed and your strats might not work, and you have like, I think by the time Kings of the Crisis rolled out, the patch was only live for about 5 hours or so. So it seemed like a little bit unfair to me to have to play competitively on this, on patch day, and just, maybe your strat doesn't work, and maybe you were like undefeated last patch, but this patch you're just like, oh, our strat doesn't work anymore. Oh, what do we do? So what do you think about this? Do you think it's a little bit unfair to the teams that are participating?
I mean, all in all, I think it kind of sucks to play on patch day, but because it's not like a really big tournament kind of a thing, I guess to me it just isn't like an issue. I think if you're planning on being a competitive team in this game, you need to be able to look at the patch notes and form a strategy from there. So I think both teams probably had a strategy from the patch notes going into those games, and I bet those strategies that they had are already changed because they've had more time to work on it. Right. So it's kind of just a thing that happened that, I don't know, overall it's not that big of a deal because it's not like it was ESL, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Like, I get it. Alright, so I also want to go back to the format of the tournament a little bit. I know that there's been some controversy over the Kings of the Crisis format, where people want it to just be Gotham Divided. They don't want any of this. You play Gotham Divided, then Coast City, then Gotham Heights, and then you go back to like Coast City and Gotham Divided. I think their Turbine is changing it a little with how this recent Kings of the Crisis went, where it was just Gotham Divided, but I think next week they're moving to Gotham Heights. So I don't know if they like what format really, or well, I don't know, because like if Gotham Divided is supposed to be the main competitive match, I think that it should just be shown off every single week. I don't know that many people who want to watch competitive Gotham Heights. I know there's like some demand for some competitive Coast City, but a lot of people, myself included, still just play Gotham Divided because that's the map. That's the main competitive marquee map. So what are your thoughts on like the format switching to this weekly kind of Kings of the Crisis thing?
I'll say this much. I think that I complained about the old format a lot for good reason. The reason being, I don't want to play anything competitively other than Gotham Divided. Specifically, this is my opinion. And so what they did was they were like, oh, for those teams that don't want to play the other maps, you can sign up on the Gotham Divided weeks. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. A, now I have 2 out of 3 weeks I don't want to compete in, and I'm willing to compete in Coast City because it's a map I've played on. I don't really want to play on Gotham Heights, but I'll do it. But they took a format that I wasn't really happy with and made it worse. And in my opinion, I just think that this format's really awkward because if my team competes in the Gotham Divided week and we win that, now we have to defend our title on a different week, and that doesn't make any sense unless there's 3 reigning kings on 3 different weeks where now the community is split in 3 different ways where maybe I don't want to watch a whole week of Gotham Heights. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird. It's dumb.
Right.
I'm gonna go back to what I've always said and say that your competitive map is Gotham Divided. Stop trying to make it anything other than that. Just please, just like save us all the trouble, save us the time, and just let us play Gotham Divided competitively.
Right. I don't want to watch, personally, I don't want to watch the Gotham Heights just because it's fun to play, but I don't know about fun to watch. Coast City, I think, is just fun to play, fun to watch, and it's just an excellent, unique map. I've always said that Coast City is one of the more unique maps I've ever played in this genre of game, and it's just so fun. So I'm willing to watch some Coast City, but I don't know how many people actually practice Coast City, just because it's... why would, like, if you're someone like Brawl or Curse, why would you waste time practicing Coast City when you can just practice Gotham Divided, which is, the bigger map and like the map that will have more money in it. Like
there is no incentive.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll play those other maps to attempt to make some money, but we're not going to practice them. It just I don't know. There's no point.
Okay.
And again, I'll agree with you. Like Coast City is fun to play and pretty fun to watch, but I don't really want to practice it. So.
All right. So moving on from Kings of the Crisis, we're going to go to the Road to Pro matches that were played this week, and the curse of the 72-minute game, or 75-minute, 70-something minute game, where between Dream State and Immortals.
Yep.
So that got awkward really quickly as a viewer, and I'm pretty sure it got more awkward as a player to watch. So, what did you think of that? Because I thought it was awkward as hell.
The funny thing is that I was watching the game at my house, and me and Julia were getting ready to go out with friends, and so I'm like, oh, okay, the game's going on, whatever, I'm gonna leave. I go out with friends, and I pull it up on my phone, and I see that it was like at the hour mark, and I was like, oh my gosh. My first thought was just like, wow, this is a really long game. You just don't see that many games that are this long.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Basically, I was just out in the dark about anything related after that point. So all I know specifically, other than what I've heard, is that the game went on for a really long time and then was gone. It was just over.
Yeah. So yeah, a good point was brought up in chat. It was awkward for literally everybody involved. Awkward for casters, awkward for the developers, awkward for viewers, awkward for players. Literally anybody who was even the slightest bit involved felt awkward at the ending of that first game. So that was just So then they remade the game with the same picks and bans, and Immortals took that first game after around 40-something minutes, and then Dream State just forfeit because probably they didn't want to play even after wasting 75 minutes and 30 seconds of their time with the first one. And the first one was actually decently close. It was just, I don't think Immortals knew how to kind of close out the game. And if I remember correctly, Road to Pro was being played on either Tuesday or Monday, and that was before the patch, and some of the problems from the last patch kind of shone through with that, because I remember Dream State annihilated Immortals near their base, so the remaining members of Dream State walked all the way from like their middle dampener to Immortals' middle dampener, and then they couldn't do anything because the walk was just so long.
Yeah. And yeah, that's like some Gotham divided-itis.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of the way it goes. And the only cool thing I could say about that game from what I went back and watched was the fact that it kind of felt like it was anybody's game the whole time.
Yeah.
But that is kind of
It
awkward.
was a very. I think that was probably
It
the
was an
most.
experience.
Yeah, it was the most awkward game, a competitive Infinite Crisis game that has ever been played. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that. But speaking of experience, we're moving on to the Infinite Crisis experience hosted by Twin Galaxies Live. Uh, I watched it. I watched all of it. Krashy participated in it in a Gotham Heights match against the Ice team.
I did. I did.
Um, so let's just discuss this. All right. So from a production value standpoint, this whole show is awesome. It's very very cool to watch. Like go on their website. They have like a Twitch player, and then you can just click whose stream you want to watch, and you still get the same experience, and you still get the chat on the side to talk to people. You just watch the player that you want to watch. Um, so I think that was cool. I think I think their whole setup was really cool. Like it was just them, playing together. But I think that they might have been able to pick some better players, or maybe some more known players. But I think that's also kind of a problem with Infinite Crisis in itself, where we don't really have that great, well, not great, but we don't have that big of a player base and not that big of like popular figures in the community, so that they can just pick.
Yeah, I from my point of view specifically, I just remember sitting there watching it and thinking that regardless of anything that happened on that show, I was still entertained. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, and that was still like that's still like the taste that it leaves in my mouth. Like I'm still gonna watch it, and whether you're someone that hates the show because of what it is or doesn't like a player on it or something, like if you're watching it to some level, you're being entertained.
Right.
So I think that the idea is cool. One thing I don't really care for is the word reality. And the only reason I don't really care for it is because it doesn't really feel like a reality show as more of like a live experience. And
Mm-hmm.
like I like that the word experience is in there. And it's really cool to see like the cutaways and the production that they've done. Like they do have their own Twin Galaxies commercials, and they have like
Mm-hmm.
the interview cutaways, and that's all really really cool to see. But I think like some of the stuff you brought up is definitely relevant. Like they didn't grab I think the best six people to be on it. I specifically would like to see a lot more people like closer to the community, kind of like Genfo on
Right.
there along with her. But other than that, it's I think it's got a really cool like a really good entertainment value. I think it's at very least a really cool idea. I'm excited to see how it continues out, and I don't know, it's cool. I like it. I think it's
Yeah.
fun.
As a show, I think it was really entertaining. I was laughing. I was like having fun with it. But it was just I totally forgot what I was gonna say. It was just fun, and I think the format of it was not that great, and I think some of the format needs a little bit of work, just because you have these people who you know haven't played the game that much. Like I think this week's Rabies was maybe the only one who played on a semi-consistent basis, because I saw Fnatic stream that day, and his stream title was literally, I think, first time playing this game, please help me out. So I'm just like, then why are you playing or why are you on the IC experience? And I thought it was for, more experienced IC players in this quote unquote reality show, um, you know, trying to make a team and be the best. But it was just, I'll watch it again. I hope that some of the format gets better, because inviting players to a Gotham Heights, especially when there are a bunch of players like esports people in the community, and you just invite them and they just stomp your players, I don't think that's good. I think it needs to kind of get shifted over, and the Gotham Divided that was match made, I still think that's not that great of an idea. But I think it would have been better as like a pre-recorded show, and then they could have just released an episode weekly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. It just seemed kind of, I don't know. I want to say on a certain level, it seemed unfair for them.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to follow us on Twitter, it's under our names. If you want to follow us on Twitch, my Twitch is twitch.tv/bladelordcal. Krashy's is Krashy. Also, if you want to follow us on Twitter, there's like some info boxes that Krashy made. There we go. Krashy made below the stream, so you can just click those and it links to our Twitter. But yeah, so I think that pretty much covers it for the world of IC right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. And Krashy, any shout outs that you want to do or anything?
Shout out to Toogie. To the almighty Toog.
Oh man, I want to give a personal shout out to Bozzy Lumpkins, because Bozzy is love, Bozzy is life, and he's the greatest. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be posting a VOD of this on YouTube, and there will be a VOD of this on Twitch as well. Any comments, concerns, feedback can be reported to me or Krashy on Twitter, on Twitch. You can PM us, you can do whatever, and we'll definitely take it into account. So thank you guys so much for watching. I thought it was a great podcast. So
yeah, it went really well. I'm pleased.
So thank you guys again so much. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So have a nice rest of the day.